Another undesigned coincidence is between the letter of 2 Timothy and Acts. As you read 2 Timothy 1, verse 5 and 3, 14 through 15, we see that Timothy grew up learning the Jewish scriptures, and particularly he learned his faith in the God of the Jews from his mother Eunice and his grandmother Lois. Reading between the lines, we can infer that Timothy's father was not someone who taught him his faith in God. But why? Was his father not a believer? Had his father died early? The letter doesn't say anything about Timothy's father. When we read the book of Acts, the author Luke shares a couple details about Timothy that perfectly fit with this. His father was a Gentile, which is why Timothy was not circumcised when he was young, like the Jewish kids. It doesn't specifically say that his father was not a believer in Jesus, but it seems implied. These accounts fit together perfectly, but also casually, and each provides information that the other one doesn't. Luke doesn't mention Timothy's grandmother or the mother's name. Paul doesn't mention his father, and so on. But both are accurately describing the same situation in different ways. Perfect undesigned coincidence. Relatedly, in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 10 and 11, Paul says that Timothy was well acquainted with his sufferings, which he endured in Antioch, Iconium, and Lystra. But it doesn't say how specifically Timothy knew those things. But in Acts 13 and through 14, it relates the persecutions Paul went through, first as he visited Antioch, then Iconium, then Lystra, then ended up getting forced out of those cities, even getting stoned by a mob and left for dead in Lystra. But it doesn't mention Timothy in those chapters. Later, in chapter 16 of Acts, during Paul's second trip to the area, Luke mentions that there was this disciple named Timothy from the area of Lystra, and that he already had a good reputation with the other Christians there. In other words, he was not a new convert from that second trip. He had already been converted previously. So this perfectly fits together that Timothy had likely been converted on Paul's previous trip, and that's why Paul could make this comment in 2 Timothy 3, but it's very indirect. You have to put these three passages together to see the connection.